Ready, belt, watch, keys, coins, pockets, something. You need this? Mute in a second. Do you need this? Or can I get it? Belt, watch, keys, pockets, something, all that. You know where you want to go, right?
Certificate of disposition.
That'll be room 150 if it's a misdemeanor, straight down, last on the right, 150. If it's a felony, 10th floor, room 150. Take 2 seconds. Down. Come on down.
Yeah, that's good. Supreme. Have 3 people in there, so you might be relying on a certificate. It is quite a time and explain what happened in 2019 while I was delivering for Grubhub. I was arrested and I spent 24 hours in holding before I was released, and I waited a year for the case to be dismissed by the Manhattan DA's office. So the case was dismissed in 2020. It's 2022 now, and I'm going to pick up a certificate of disposition from the criminal courthouse building in Manhattan, 100 Center Street. So that is the short end of the story. The case was dismissed, but it's been over a year and some change before I'm coming back to get a certificate of disposition for the dismissed case. So you're probably curious why the case was dismissed, what the case was about, what happened, what did I do, what didn't I do. Obviously, I didn't do anything wrong. Thinking about it now a couple of years later, I wish that I would have done this at the beginning of whatever happened back then. I wish I would have went live when I walked up to the police officer, and then afterwards, after walking up to the police officer, we exchanged some words. There was some back and forth. There was a demand for my ID. I declined to provide the ID, and then eventually I ended up in handcuffs and ended up sitting in the jail cell that's actually below this building, I'm told. I'm told that there's a jail under the courthouse, and I believe I sat there for 24 hours in 2019. So now I'm back at the courthouse and I'm obtaining a certificate of disposition from this courthouse because the case was dismissed. The charges filed were dismissed in 2020. And funny story, I was watching a episode of NYPD Blue. I forget what episode it was. It was season 1. But Andy Sikowitz, the lead detective, plays a police officer, detective in the NYPD, and his son gets mistakenly arrested for a drug sale. And Andy Sikowitz goes and tries to help his son out, finds out that they've got the wrong person, and so he has to prove that. But he says something that stuck out to me. He said that he had to make sure his son didn't get entered into the system, and they made up a name for the system name. I'm sure it's not the actual name of the system in real life, but he said NICES. And when he said that, it just caught my attention because I thought when I was arrested, they said something about fingerprinting me and putting me in the NICES system. But, I mean, NICES, maybe that's the name, maybe that's not the name, I don't know. But as soon as he said that word, my mind got triggered and I was, I'm in line. And I heard that and it triggered in me, well, I should go find out more about that. I should find out if I'm still in the system, even if the case has been dismissed, the charges weren't filed, there was no prosecution, there was nothing. The case was just dismissed. I didn't have to pay any fines, nothing. But when Andy Sikowitz said that he had to make sure to avoid having his son get in the system, I remember that, and I decided that I should come down to this office and figure out if I'm in the system. And I found out that after a case is dismissed, you have to pay a couple of bucks to get a certificate of disposition, which indicates that the case has been dismissed, which is partly what I want. That's a first step. What I really want is what Andy also wanted. You want your information, information, fingerprints, anything they may have collected that you don't even know about. You want that stuff removed from the system, even if it's sealed, because apparently that affects background checks. Apparently, if you get arrested, the case is dismissed, that information gets. Employees often discriminate. They don't know the full extent of the story. They might not even give you a chance to explain that the case was dismissed. They just see an arrest, and that's it. You are they'll no longer consider you for employment. So what I want is to make sure that there's none of that information, there's none of my information in this system after the case was dismissed, because it might affect a background check. The employee might look at that, they might look at the arrest and not continue on to the case that the case was dismissed. They might just stop that there was an arrest and look at nothing else. I'm just not even evaluate your application. So it's important that if any of my information, any of my personal information, fingerprints, DNA, who knows what, is in the system, that I be able to get it removed. And I'm hoping that I don't have to go through the extraordinary step of filing a civil claim or civil action to sort of clean up the mess that's made here. Because what I'm worried about is, I'm also worried, in addition to having the arrest show up in background checks, I'm also additionally worried that it might cause a problem in the future, an error might occur. A police might stop me, might look up in the system, and they might see some errant information from that arrest and case dismissal. And I want to ask this guy if he's a lawyer. Excuse me, sir. Are you a lawyer? Are you an attorney?
Sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to find out if he's an attorney because, of course, I might have to follow up on this depending on what the case is or what the state of the case is. So as I was saying, that what I'm worried about is that the lingering information that may be in the system about that arrest in 2019 may cause some unforeseen problem in the future when and if I may be stopped by police for some mistaken understanding or whatever, and they ask for my ID and I turn it over, and then they look up my name and birth date information and they go like, oh, we have an outstanding other stuff that shouldn't be there, but it's there because it's an error from the arrest and case dismissal and my information just being in the system. So I want to make sure that, in effect, my name is clean from the system, expunged from the system, removed from whatever system it is, without hopefully having to hire a civil lawyer to do this, because I've called lawyers and talked to them, and not about this case, but about other cases, and they're just hard to reach, they're expensive, they'll cost a couple of $1,000s, they bill $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 in billables, and just for this little situation, like paying that amount of lawyer fees is crazy, although it's worth it if it prevents a misunderstanding or an error in the future to have all my information clean from the system. But if I can just do this myself, if a certificate of disposition, which I'm waiting in line for, to obtain from the criminal court clerk in Manhattan, if I can just pay the few bucks and a certificate of disposition, get a certificate of disposition, I feel that's a great first step. I want to follow it up with making sure that all my information is removed from pertaining to the arrest in 2019 and the subsequent case dismissal in 2020. So that's what I'm waiting in line for. That's what I went through the magnetic detectors for. That's why I'm live, because I'm following up on an arrest and a case dismissal in 2019 and 2020, and I'm waiting in line to pay the court clerk the fee. I'm in line. So I'm waiting in line to obtain this certificate of disposition, and I'm running the live stream to show the process of getting a certificate of disposition after your case has been dismissed and after you were arrested. It looks like they were on a lunch break, and according to the wall over there, I'm not allowed to do this. So I'm going to be quiet for a while because I'm in here.
I'm gonna pay for it. Yeah, legal aid.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, you just go on no problem. 10 minutes, come right back.
Okay, thanks.
Who's next? Yes, sir.
I walk out of the deposition.
You were arrested in Manhattan?
Yeah.
Your name is not coming up. You sure you're arrested in Manhattan?
Yeah, this is my house.
No, not where you live, where you got arrested.
Next.
Yeah, I got arrested in this one.
And you ever use a different name?
No.
What were you charged with?
This was they found me in the park and they found me with marijuana.
And they took you to the precinct or they gave you a ticket?
The video was in
No, but the name is
Like a calendar for next week?
like I before. Yes.
Yeah, they have something today that's gonna be on tomorrow that never existed
Your
until
name is not
today.
coming up, so I'll be honest with you.
Okay, thank you.
There
You're
is
welcome.
a name.
No, sir.
You can try room 1000 on the 10th floor. Supreme Court has more,
Is this the only time you ever got arrested?
what's the word, more practice with cases.
That's
So you can try 10th floor room 1000, they can try
98.
more cases. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
That's it.
A long time ago.
Thank you.
That's more than 20 years.
Okay, so I just picked up the slip here, and I'll show you in a second. It says that it's a non-public version, and so it shows my name and shows the date, and there's a seal on it. It says that it's sealed pursuant to section 160.50 of the CPL. It lists the count. There are 3 counts, 3 charges. They list the charge weight. They listed disposition, which says dismissed, motion to dismiss granted, sealed 160.50. Disposition date January 26, 2021. Dismissed by the next charge and count says dismissed by ACD January 26, 2001, and the last count, number 3. Last charge and count, number 3, says dismissed by ACD January 26, 2021. Document is not official unless embossed with the court seal. So I'm in Manhattan at the criminal court, 100 Center Street, and I just got a certificate of disposition from the court clerk regarding a case in 2001 that was dismissed. 2001 that was dismissed, but was arrested in 2019, November, in Manhattan, in New York. And I just got the document, and I have some more questions about what I should do next, even after I've received the certificate of disposition from the court clerk. I wonder what information of mine still remains in the system, particularly in reference to fingerprints and possible DNA that they might have connected from a water bottle that I drank off of while in custody for 24 hours. I'm curious if any information such as that is still within the system, and I'm worried that if it's still in the system, it might turn up and it might affect me in the future in a negative way. It would be unfortunate. I'm wondering if I need to pursue some sort of civil action to make sure that all my information is removed from the system if possible, if it's still in there, even though the certificate of disposition that I hold says that it is sealed. So as you can see, I have a certificate of disposition from New York Criminal Court, Manhattan Courthouse in New York, which I'm standing right outside of right now. That paper is a certificate of disposition I just received from the court clerk regarding the dismissal of a case in 2021 for which I was arrested in 2019. So the case was dismissed, and I have the certificate of disposition which says that the case is sealed. And I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at all the information on the certificate of disposition, but I'm wondering whether or not I have to pursue action to find out if any of my personal information, such as fingerprints or DNA or eye scan, are still in the system. Because I remember when I was arrested, they took scans of my eyes, they took fingerprints, and they also probably, I don't know for sure, took DNA off of the water bottle that I drank of while I was in custody for 24 hours before I was released. So I'm looking at the certificate of disposition right now. The arraignment date says November 3, 2020. I was mistaken. It was in 2019. It says the arrest date was November 2, 2020. I can talk about the situation and circumstances of the case. It's quite stupid. I walked up to some police officers that had cordoned off a section of the street, and I indicated to them that they were trying to break into my property, which was locked to a what's it called? There was a piece of my property that locked to a street post, and they had cordoned off the street. They were trying to get into the box, and I just walked up to them, thinking that I could, but I couldn't even do that because they wanted my ID, and I was not interested in providing my ID because, as I told them, I didn't have to show them my ID because the crime hasn't even been committed. So they asked me for my ID a whole bunch of times, and I never realized to probably stop and say, "Are you going to arrest me if you don't show my ID?" Because after they arrested me, I was like, "Oh yeah, you can have my ID now." But I didn't know that at the time, but I found out afterwards that I should have asked if they were going to arrest me if I didn't show my ID, which I didn't do at the time. So they did arrest me. They did take me to the jail in Manhattan, which is underneath the courthouse, 100 Center Street, which I'm standing outside right now. I was probably underneath the jail. It's somewhere underneath there. I was in there for 24 hours underneath this building here in Manhattan. And So I didn't turn over my ID, but I did walk up to them and I tried to explain to them that the box that they were trying to get into that was locked to a street post was mine. And they asked for my ID and I wouldn't give it to them. I was doing a delivery at the time with my ID. And so they arrested me, took me to the jail here that's in Manhattan, and released me in 24 hours. And I waited a year for the case to be dismissed. It was dismissed, and after it was dismissed, it looks like a year ago, or a year ago and some change, in January 2021, it looks as if there's some questions that I still have that haven't been answered, and I'm on a mission to find out next in terms of if they still have my fingerprint information, if they still have my eye scan information, if they God knows what else information they might have been able to obtain from me for the 24 hours in which I was within the jail before eventually the case was dismissed. And now today, pursuant to my release, I went into the court clerk's office in the courthouse behind me and obtained a certificate of disposition from the clerk's office that lists all the information about the case, and the case being sealed. And what is a sealed case? I mean, these are questions for a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. If there are lawyers out there, I'd appreciate if they reach out to me and provide me with some follow-up assistance. Like if you need money from me, like probably don't even reach out, because I'm not really interested in paying a couple $100 for billing fees. It's not worth it, because I could probably do it myself. I could probably recruit my subscribers and my community to help me out with information that I need to do. But if you're a lawyer and you happen to be watching this, or this happens to pass to you, if you're a civil lawyer particularly, my question is, do you have to file a civil suit against the city of New York in order to make sure that all the information gathered at the time of arrest for a case that was subsequently dismissed can be removed from the system? The fingerprints, the DNA, saliva from the water bottle that I drank while under the custody of the court for 24 hours, whether the eye scans that they took upon arrest, whether all that information about me and more that I don't know about, maybe there's more that I don't know that is in the system. What more is in the system? Can all that information, all that personal information about me after a case has been dismissed, can that be cleared from the system, and is a civil action necessary to make sure that the city and state of New York, my hand, that I just obtained from the clerk from the Manhattan Criminal Court behind me? I know I'm repeating myself, but that is that question. That's what I'm out here live streaming. I'm trying to find out what else I need to do after I've received the certificate of disposition that shows the case has been sealed, it's been dismissed, but the arrest still might remain. The arrest most likely is still on my record. It most likely will show up on background check. That's another issue that I'm interested in clearing up, how to make sure that arrest information can be removed from third-party online websites who collect this information and don't verify it. And I want to know, so that's actually three things. I want to know how to remove my personal information, or get my personal information deleted and removed from whatever system that it was entered in at the time of arrest. Second, I want to have my information removed from background checks about the arrest. And third, I want to make sure that just interrupt Manhattan on Center Street, 100 Center Street. And I'm just holding a live stream because I just went to the clerk's office inside the Manhattan courthouse to receive a certificate of disposition for an arrest that was made in 2020 on my person. And the case was subsequently dismissed in 2021. I was interested in reaching out and hoping that some lawyers were watching this live stream and could provide me with information after I've received the certificate of disposition for the case showing that it's been sealed. 3 concerns that I had were how to clear my arrest information from the system so that it doesn't show up if I'm possibly detained or stopped by the police and they ask me to see for my ID in the future. 2, how do I make sure that arrest information doesn't show up in background checks that employees will use to discriminate against me for having the arrest and not look at that the case was dismissed. And 3, how do I have that arrest information removed from third-party websites that collect and disseminate information about arrests and convictions online? And whether or not, whether or not a civil action is required to make sure all those 3 issues get cleared up. That's what this live stream is about. That's why I'm standing outside the courthouse here behind me, 100 Center Street. And that's basically it. Hi, so what I'm doing while I'm live streaming is because I'm outside the criminal courthouse in Manhattan. I just got a certificate of disposition. The document shows that the case was dismissed for why I was arrested in 2020. And I just obtained the certificate of disposition. I was arrested in 2020. The case was dismissed in 2021. And I just received the certificate of disposition from the county clerkhouse, which is in the courthouse behind me. I was just wondering a few things, even after the certificate of disposition has been obtained. I was wondering if collection of saliva from water bottles drank of while I was there for 24 hours in jail, whether or not that information still remains in the system and whether or not a civil action is required to remove that information. And 2, how to go about removing arrest information that employers use to discriminate when they see that an arrest has been made, but they pay no mind to the case having been already dismissed. And 3, how to make sure all that arrest information that's collected by third-party websites like peoplefinders.com, all that information is removed from that. Is a civil case required to resolve all those issues, all those 3 issues that I have? Subscribe to the channel, like the video, turn on those notifications. Hi. So I keep seeing that somebody back here, but I'm just trying to explain that I'm outside the criminal courthouse in Manhattan behind me. I just went into the courthouse to receive a certificate of participation for a case that was dismissed behind me. I was dismissed in people in general to help understand if there's anything that I need to follow up on this, whether or not I need to get a lawyer. Hopefully I don't have to get a lawyer because lawyers are expensive and necessary, but I had 3 issues that were top of the mind as far as information that may still be in the system even after the certificate disposition says that the case is sealed. So, New York Criminal Court. Standing outside the courthouse behind me. wondering if I need a lawyer to make sure none of my information is still in the system regarding an arrest is politically dismissed. And I'm wondering if I still need to pursue legal action to make sure all my personal information is cleared from the system.
Seeking certificate of disposition that shows the case has been sealed, it's been dismissed. The arrest still might remain. The arrest most likely is still on my record. Most likely.
That is a certificate of disposition that I just obtained from the courthouse behind me in Manhattan, 100 Center Street. And you're looking at the certificate of disposition that just obtained from the county clerk. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and like the video and turn on notification for future video drops. Just have a few questions and I'm just waiting for people to come in so I could just start discussing why I'm live streaming outside the courthouse in Manhattan on 100 Center Street. So just bear with me here if you see long stretches of silence. I have a question. If you're not busy. I'm live. Just to let you know. I was arrested in 2020. The case was dismissed. I just went into the clerk's office and I got a certificate of disposition.
Right. You have it on you?
Yeah, it's right here. So I have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Okay. All dismissed as of January 26th. You were arrested on November the 2nd, so it was dismissed. Looks like it was dismissed based on November, December,
It was
January.
a German contemplating dismissal. I had to wait for a year.
Okay. Took an ACD.
It's
Okay,
ACD.
yeah.
So my question is, there are three things that come to my mind. The arrest information that's collected and entered into the system. It shows up in background checks. And employers discriminate when they see that you've been arrested and the case was they don't even pay attention to the case was dismissed.
Well, that's illegal.
Of course. But
that's
how are
what
you going to
happens.
catch them?
Right.
I'm wondering, how do I make sure my information, even after the certificate of disposition, how do I make sure that my information can be cleared, removed, not being able to be looked at?
That's a good question. So basically, here, you can hold on to this. What's supposed to happen is that those items are supposed to be expunged. They're actually supposed to be destroyed. Okay? After the dismissal takes full effect. They're supposed to be destroyed. And that's a function of law that happens supposedly automatically through, I believe it's not a branch of police. The exact acronym escapes me right now, but the state agency that
Keeps and collects
I think it's
information.
the Division of Records. But
Okay.
don't quote me on that. And they're supposed to destroy that stuff. Now, what you may be interested in doing
Okay.
is communicating with them and asking them or reminding them or kind of urging them along in that process.
Writing them a letter.
To kind of incentivize them to
Okay.
get that going. All right. Look, I'm sure there's a backlog of these things, but based off of what you're saying,
Yeah.
certain items should be destroyed. Pictures, arrest photos,
What about
fingerprint cards,
What about saliva? What about eye
that
scans?
kind of stuff should be destroyed. Now, one thing that you should keep in mind is that depending on the kind of job
I'm
that
looking
you're
for.
going for,
Mhm.
there are deeper background checks that are done. And
Sure.
particularly if you're looking into jobs in law enforcement
Okay.
and jobs in certain other areas that have high security externalities and high security effects, they'll do unsealing orders. They will dig deep to find this information. And what you don't have, you have an adjournment and contemplation of dismissal, which is a little bit different than a case being
Not guilty.
right. And so the requirements are a bit different, but they still have to treat your information sensitively, and certain aspects of it for sure should be destroyed. All right.
Okay, I do all that. They take a lot of time. Is a civil action necessary? Will a civil action be necessary?
Well, when you say civil action, you mean to get compensation for the time that you were detained and things of that nature?
To get compensation in order to get them to do what they should do that they may not be doing.
So I've never heard of someone utilizing like illegal. I've never heard of someone bringing a claim to get that particular thing taken
Claim,
care
right?
of.
Yeah.
I would suggest that you start with
Oh yeah, I'm going
finding out where in the process they are with respect
going
to
to.
your information and what you. I would suggest you start
I would
with
do that. I would do that
Now,
too.
it sounds like the question that you asked me has a couple of aspects to it. There are times when you can sue for false arrest, or when you can sue for a case that's resulted in dismissal or an ACD. But usually that's only the case if that information came from a third party and it is not the subject of an observation by a police officer, direct observation by cops, because it's just.
What about if you
standard.
refuse to give them your ID?
That's not the greatest basis for a false
Sure.
arrest case, because they were never found. You were never fully exonerated, so to speak. Okay, it's not on
Sure.
the merits. You know what I'm saying? It's an ACD. It wasn't on the merits. But time-wise, it's now 2022. You may have some time bar regulations on that as well. Look, I wish that there was better information I could give you, but I'm not looking at the records. I'm not looking at
Sure.
the files and stuff like that. I would suggest you contact that agency. All right?
I will. I was
would
just
suggest
wondering
that.
if I could get your card if you have one.
Gosh. I'm gonna have to
But
go
you've
over
been
here.
very helpful.
Yeah, man, look, I
Thanks.
try to, when people ask questions, at least that I can do, especially one of us, is make sure that I can answer. So, give me a second to see if I got any cards in here.
I actually had to spend 24 hours in the jail that's underneath here.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
First offense,
my only offense.
your only offense. I'm sorry about that. I truly am, because what I'll say is that it definitely changes you.
You hear stories about people like in the future getting jammed up because there's some information still floating out there,
Yeah.
even if it's an error.
Yeah.
That's kind of what my concern is too, that I
That's a
may
valid
be stopped
concern.
by police in the future. He may ask for my ID.
Yeah.
I give it to him, and he'll be like, "Oh, hey, we have a warrant for you."
That's a
Here, if you want to write down your
completely valid
information.
concern. Yeah, I'll write it down for you, because I don't seem to have any cards. I used to do. But oh wait.
I think it's totally valid because I've heard of cases. I've
you
heard
go.
of cases where people got locked up.
Yeah.
And because on an error, on a
Bro.
technicality.
Shit happens, and it can be a life-changing situation. All right. What was your name?
My name is Kimmy.
Kimmy. Kimmy?
Yeah.
Hey, Kimmy, David.
Nice to
Good
meet
luck
you,
with
David.
everything.
Sure.
Write that letter. Get in touch with them.
I will.
Okay?
I will.
And, you know, good luck with things. All right, brother.
Thank you.
All right, man.
Have a good one. So I just happened to run into a lawyer and talked to him and chatted with him. I don't know if you were able to hear the conversation, but yeah, I'm just standing outside the courthouse, and it looks like that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be seeing if I can run into some lawyers right now who I can just talk to about this situation and live stream it also. So that was helpful. That was very helpful. That was very, very, very helpful information that I didn't know that he provided. And he said that I needed to find an agency that is responsible for that arrest information, and that after a case is expunged, that agency is supposed to do away with my arrest information. I'll have to research and find out what the name of that agency is. He wasn't sure of it, but that's okay. I'll just wait out here and see if I run into another lawyer. Look, I can see another guy. I bet he's a lawyer. Right there. I bet he's a lawyer. I think I'm just gonna try to talk to him. See if he's busy. I bet he's a lawyer. Hold on a second. Let's see. I wonder if he works with me. I wonder what type of lawyer is it. Excuse me, sir. Hi. Are you a lawyer by any chance? So the guy that I just went and asked, he's not a lawyer, so it looks like today I'll just be randomly chatting with people, I guess. That's fine. Just stand out here waiting for a second. excuse me. Hi. Are you a lawyer?
What is the 6th train?
6th train?
Yeah,
It's up that way.
thank you.
What is the name of the union?
We got to talk to JC. I'll let him know what it's like.
Equal and exact justice to all men of whatever state or persuasion. Hi, how you doing? I was wondering, are you a lawyer by any chance? Civil criminal? I have a question. I'm live, if you don't mind. I'm live streaming, if you don't mind.
You're what?
I'm
No,
live
I
streaming.
don't want to do that.
I just have a quick question. About certificate of disposition.
105.
Okay, I already got it. But I'm concerned about the information that shows up in background checks.
Yeah. Just got to call the lawyer handling the case.
No, I don't have a lawyer handling the case. It was legal aid.
Yeah, have a call.
They don't respond. So it's hard to talk to a lawyer. It's hard to find a lawyer. Nobody's interested. They just give you a useless runaround. So I'm not sure if somebody has joined me or not, but if you've joined me, I'm standing outside the criminal courthouse in Manhattan, New York, 100 Center Street. I just went inside and I got a certificate of disposition, which shows that the case was dismissed for an arrest in 2020. And I just had a few questions for anybody in particular. But if you're new to the channel, subscribe and like the video so we can get out to a wider audience. But after stopping at this courthouse here and getting a certificate of disposition from the clerk's office, which says that the case was dismissed in 2021, the information that was collected at the arrest shows up in background checks, and it concerns me because if I go for employment, the arrest will be shown, but the case dismissal will be not. And employers are not supposed to discriminate on that basis, but they do discriminate on that basis, and I'm wondering what action I need to do to follow up on that. I spoke to a gentleman out here, and he said that I need to contact the state agency that collects and processes arrest information in New York. I don't know the name of that agency. I'm wondering if anybody knows the name of the agency that collects information about arrests, because I want to write to them and I want to make sure that the information that they collected from myself at the time of the arrest is deleted, removed, expunged, not accessible. And I just don't know the name of this agency that takes care of that. And I'm curious about that. I'm gonna stop this guy right here. I'm gonna ask him if he's a lawyer. Hi, excuse me, sir. Are you a lawyer? How you doing? Are you a lawyer?
Fine, it's Friday.
Are you a lawyer?
That I am.
What agency, what state of New York agency processes information about arrests?
Information about a what?
Arrests.
Arrest? I guess the clerk at the criminal court.
The clerk at the county court?
Criminal court. You want to
Right here?
criminal? Arrests are only criminal. They're not civil.
I just obtained this. It's a certificate of disposition.
Yeah.
I just obtained it.
Right, room 150.
However, I'm told that employers discriminate when they see an arrest. They don't concern
It's
themselves with
supposedly erased.
supposedly. This is why I want to make sure that they've done it. And I want to know the agency I need to contact to figure that
Ask
out.
the clerk in the court at room 150. He would be able to.
Appreciate your help. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend. All right, so he says I should go back into the courthouse to find out the agency. Good. I gotta take off all my stuff again. Go back in there. I forgot. I wish I'd known to do this. But I'll go back in there and Hi, I'm headed inside this criminal courthouse. I'm going to be quiet while I'm recording inside, but I'll speak some more back outside.
the whole thing. You have a belt latch key?
I have steel toe boots.
No, that one. You have a mask?
Case is
No, it
dismissed.
gets sealed.
Okay, that's what I want.